Hi, we're here at the Sydney Opera House and TechBiz Australia is over. ZDNet was joined by representatives from Kogan Technologies, Lindsay Transport, the Australian Institute of Management, Agshaw and Brands Exclusive. And the discussion started off by talking about how each company was using mobility and implementing a BOYD solution.
Are you providing staff with devices, or are you allowing them to bring them in and then either trying to manage them yourself, or is it a free-for-all? Dana?
It's a combination of both, actually. Where we've got devices that we need to control for whatever reasons, we supply them to staff, but we can't stop people bringing their own devices, I don't think, in this day and age, especially in a small business. And so we've got a mixed, blended environment, but mainly because, we've got a whole different group of people who work in the organisation and they've all got different needs. What was interesting, our board, quite, fantastic board, probably not that tech savvy, but we basically supplied them all iPads and then set them up with cloud services on the iPad so they could actually see the technology in action, and that made it a lot easier for us to sell in what we wanted to do, which was a much larger cloud implementation at the time. We give some stuff and we allow people to bring some stuff in where it makes sense.
We're a mix as well. All of our applications are based in the cloud, so for core functions within the business, we provide computing devices, but we have a large number of Gen Ys in our team as well, and you can't stop them accessing cloud-based applications from home or outside of ours, nor do we want them to.
Do you do anything special because you've got the different distribution centres and you're an agriculture-facing business?
And agriculture, I would describe in terms of online purchasing, is probably from 5 years behind where eBay and other things are today. So many of the things that we do with our farm clients is build trust with them, that the channel is supportable and feasible channel for them. So that's a key aspect of what we focus on in terms of the client relationship.
And are they adopting mobile technology, the farmers, the customers?
So definitely. There are some extremely large farmers out there today who are very technology savvy and operate many parts of their business using high-tech products.
We've had an absolute explosion of mobile devices, and we're actually going through some growing pains on that right at the moment, because we're 100% own. We 100% own all of our devices at the moment and manage all of our devices, which is becoming quite a big rod for our back. And I'd actually be interested to know you guys that have actually got BYOD happening within your business, how you manage that, because it's going to be, for us, it's going to be very interesting. We want to move down that track, but we're not sure how to do it at the moment. Yeah. So I'd actually be interested to know how some of you guys are handling that.
So we looked at what was the risk of the device and what was the risk of whatever someone wanted to access if they were coming. It's generally email for us. And so we just put a policy in effect that said, if you lose the device, you've got to have some way of remote wiping it. You've got to let us know. And you've got to be really careful about what you're transmitting on that device. And when people had that clarity, then that's how we kind of handled it. But where you've got apps, it might be a more complicated situation, I think.
All right, guys, we've got a question from Twitter I want to pose to you. What business problem is ICT struggling to solve? So we'll start with you, Sean.
As a general rule, mobile devices. We just talked about it just then. It's like, what do we do? Everything's just moving so quickly on mobile devices now, and we've already touched on the fact that it's how do we handle them? How do we handle the BYOD devices? How do we handle new users coming on board? How do we handle all the different types of technologies that you've got to get onto a tablet or a mobile device, and it's just a nightmare now. Picking the right platform, because there's several different platforms, all those sorts of things. So
and you've got the other problem, I imagine, of having like the most disparate workforce of anybody here on the panel.
Well, they're definitely all over the place now. We've got a bunch of trucks that are on the road all day long and all night long, and we're constantly managing those guys 24/7. So that becomes a bit of a problem for us, for sure. I've found with using web-based apps, and it's really the only issue, is where you want to have an application that works even though you don't have a mobile network that's available. And that becomes an issue, especially for our trucks, because we're out in the middle of nowhere half the time. So,
Guys, what issue hasn't ICT solved?
So I think it's an ongoing challenge, but it's becoming a larger challenge in terms of just the speed of change. And how does ICT keep up with that speed of business change?
Ralph, anything to add?
For us, it's similar. So one hand, internally, we built everything mobile, so we don't have the problem of connectivity. So it's either in the warehouse or either in the office. So we get that solved quite easily. But from a customer perspective, from a service delivery perspective, we're constantly looking for new solutions that make sense to employ. What is off the shelf and standardized versus where do we need to develop our own IP and develop that in a way that we can change it, scale it, adapt it to whatever the need is in a year's time or 2 years' time, because frankly, I don't know.
I think one of the interesting challenges ICT faces is actually people, less so technology now. I think technology's come so far and is so easy to kind of roll out and implement. The struggle really is how do you get your staff using the technology effectively when we're only now seeing Gen Y come into the workforce who are comfortable with using a computer. Most of the workforce really, they've muddled their way through, and so one of the rate limiters that we've seen is getting people up to speed and comfortable with computing is really, it doesn't sound like an ICT challenge to face, but if you're putting the system in, you've got to make sure people use it effectively. And I don't think every business also lends itself to having a mobile environment. Works perfectly well for Kogan, but there are situations where if you don't have things that you can deliver on a mobile that people are going to consume and use, then you just got to evaluate, are you doing it just because everyone else is doing mobile mobility?
Yeah. The discussion then turned to cloud and how each company is implementing it. And it was quickly established that if you were starting a new business today, you'd have to go to the cloud first.
The cloud. What are you doing in the cloud? And you could just give a brief explanation on what it is you're doing.
We do everything in the cloud. So all our core systems are run in public cloud infrastructure, and we use infrastructure as a service for quite a number of things. So really, we've made a conscious choice to move out of owning our own IT infrastructure, which can be expensive, not just the physical costs, but also having the right people to run and manage it, having the right partners, and that moving to the cloud has freed us up to focus on solving business problems that are more within our control. So very important to aim.
James, would you be able to do what your company's done over the past 8 months if it wasn't for things like cloud?
My commentary was really, one of our big drivers was speed. So we wouldn't have been able to stand up all of the infrastructure, load all of the applications and customise them in the way that we wanted them to be customised if we had an in-house model. So that was one of the driving factors to our cloud-based solution model.
I like to say that if the office burnt down today, we'd all be able to keep the business running from the cafe next door tomorrow.
Has anyone tried that?
Even
as a test run, minus the gasoline.
Yes, DR test, yes, yeah.
How'd you go?
Good, yeah. I mean, if you've got an internet connection, you're generally okay. Phones are the interesting thing, but yeah, from an app perspective.
We sort of went pretty close to that happening to us in the Brisbane floods. So we had a situation where we lost our head office and our one of our major depots in Brisbane. It was 5 metres of water through the whole place and trucks laying on their side floating down the river and all that sort of thing. So it's pretty scary. So we ended up moving into a temporary location, and because of using mobile technologies like 3G and 4G and all that sort of thing, and completely cloud-based telephony, we were able to get the business back up and running within 24 hours. So that was pretty damn cool, being able to do that. And we wouldn't have been able to do that before mobile technologies were available, and before also a lot of our infrastructure is cloud-based. So not all of it, probably 50-50 right at the moment.
Yeah.
But the intention is to move more cloud-based as we go forward. What we've found is that the hierarchy or the board tend to have a little bit of a problem with putting new business applications in the cloud.
Yeah.
So that's probably about the last thing that we'll do. So our major business applications, but everything else is sort of gone there now. So
how'd you go with the trucks though?
we got them all up and running again. We lost a few, but that happens.
We can just swap that out and maintain the communication channel and add whatever extra layers we need to that. So I think, we have an engineering team in-house, and I mean, we view that as a really important factor when running a technology business. So we have the skills to
And
do
do you guys
that.
build most of your applications though? Are they generally engineered by your team?
Yeah, we have a mix of them. So our core applications like the website, the M site, and internal systems are built by us. And for bits where we think it's appropriate, we will use software as a service providers.
For us, integration is a challenge, but ultimately defining and managing an appropriate data architecture is the key to that. So yes, we all have integration issues, but we've always all had integration issues. It's not just about the cloud, but the cloud does bring to the fore that you need to have your data architecture strongly defined and manage towards that to try to mitigate the risks and problems that come through.
Ralph?
So we also have our in-house technology team managing the connections. I agree with you, James, that the data architecture is the one that is important. Basically, most of those applications go back to our database. And
Was there any issues when you had your tech over in Turkey, for instance? Did it actually matter that much that it was in Turkey?
it mattered in a way that we couldn't adapt it to our Australian needs in the beginning, so which was fine, and we knew that. So after, as I said, after we'd proven the business model, we brought it over to be able to develop, build on it, connect it, increase speed of websites and all these kind of things, which were important for the growing business at the time. So yes, it has its implications if you use a service provider for one of your core applications, the website. Mm-hmm. So that was also, we always knew we were bringing it in. For us, it was important to not invest too early into an unproven business model in Australia. So
A highlight of the discussion was when it turned to big data and analytics. And to best explain the point, we're just going to show you the next 6 minutes in full.
I think it's analytics in our business is a big thing, monitoring analytics. And one of the things that people often mix together is personal information and aggregate information. Most of the analytics you perform are on aggregate data, so that it's being depersonalised. You don't know who the end user is. So, for example, just say a lot of people went onto the Kogan website and they've purchased a certain combination of products, and they've just say done that, we've done that, and we just recorded anonymous clicks of what's been purchased. When a new user's come on the website, we don't know who they are, but we have the ability to say, based on you viewing this product or based on you adding this product to your cart, we think that the following information is relevant to you. So in general, we use this aggregate data to customise and personalise the shopping experience to you, which I think is it's actually, as an end user, a good thing, because you get to see the things that are most relevant to what you're searching for at the time. So it's not so much like, ooh, Joe did this and this is Joe, and let's try and see what we can do and sell Joe personally to anyone. We don't do any of that. It's all sort of just anonymous aggregate data that you're matching usage patterns, not people.
So I guess big data, what does that mean to, it all means something different to all of us. So I mean, for Lindsay's, I guess, we've, similarly to before, the lights just come on recently and they've sort of gone, actually, we can do a lot with this information. We just need to know how to present it properly. So, I mean, every day we're collecting more and more data. We're starting to get to a point now where we collect engine telemetry all the time, and we can look at how our vehicles are used and how they get maintained, and how we can better do, save costs, how we can look at what the drivers are doing, how they corner and how they speed, and whether or not they're doing all that sort of thing. So we collect tons of data, but we don't do what we should be. So what we're actually finding now is we've gone down the track of data warehousing and starting to do business intelligence against that data warehousing, when we're putting people on board in the business now to cover off in that area. It's important to most businesses nowadays to have a handle on their data, and it's what's going to give you the business edge at the end of the day.
Do you get much resistance from the drivers, for instance? Well, how dare you tell me back at office how I should corner?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, initially when the drivers look at this tech, they don't like it, but over a period of time they realise that there's a benefit to them as well. And look, we're looking down the track of doing things like incentivising the drivers and all that sort of thing, so they can get benefits out of it, because we can look at the drivers and go, if you look after our trucks, we'll give you some extra money, extra couple of cents per kilometre, and that's a big win-win for everyone. The driver gets a bit more. The business gets to be able to have less accidents, have less fines. Means insurance is less, maintenance is less, better reputation for the business. It's a win-win situation for everybody. So once the drivers get that and understand that, they seem to be okay with it. But we've got a lot of old school people, so it takes a lot of time. It takes a bit of time from them to get on board with it, but they do.
Yeah. Ralph?
Very important, analytics, and I don't know if it's big data, it's data, full stop for us. We're a member-based business, so you log in and you basically make yourself known. And we look at browsing behaviors, we look at when you become a member, okay, what search term did you use to personalize the experience with us. So what members expect and customers expect is they're presented with products that they're interested in. So you need to collect data to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a one solution for all our 2.5 million members, which isn't good either. So it's important, it's relevant, it's also demanded by our customers. So.
James, you've got an extra few channels as
so,
well.
So we're a multi-channel environment. So part of it is in investing in personalisation, which you've both spoken about, but also part of it, like other e-commerce businesses, is proactive marketing, and both selecting the appropriate channel as well as determining the appropriate product at the appropriate time. So analytics is a big focus for us within our business.
Is there anything special that you've sort of got out of it?
We do a lot of client segmentation, both in terms of farm verticals as well as consumer scale or farmer scale, and from that we take up different marketing techniques and different channels across the different business segments, because we find them to be more effective in different segments.
So that was TechBiz Australia. To view the full video, be sure to come to zdnet.com.